Right. Now we're seeing Kale, another pocket pick from Wraith. Think of this. He might end this season playing 2 games. His 2 games, Leona and Kale.
Well, trying to be the trendsetter so far. Leona hasn't caught on, but if Samsung come up with a crushing victory here, maybe the Kale will be the next pick du jour, you have to say, as you so aptly put it. So, interesting draft, to say the least, as Samsung comes back into this game to 3 new members starting off on the roster. Ambition back in after we haven't seen him for quite some time. But now Stitch and Wraith, a whole new bottom lane that Bang & Wolf have to deal with.
And if Ambition, the other new player, has a day out, diving in with 4 or 5 stacks of the Bone Tooth Necklace, and also the Kale ultimate, will be a very happy day for that Rengar. A lot of the rest of their comp actually peels back. For example, the Jhin is going to be out of range of a lot of damaging abilities, so you imagine Intervention isn't quite as powerful there. First sighting of a support Kale since I joined the LCK in 2015. It might have been multiple years since we saw one. Something different from Wraith. Suddenly we have to come to expect it from him. He likes the crazy and he's bringing it out here.
All right, well, let's see if Wraith can earn himself a starting spot on the roster. Of course, JJ will take back over. They're looking to pick up a win. Let's go ahead and get on the rip for Game 2. All right, here we go. Welcome to Summoner's Rift. Samsung fans definitely trying to fight back by cheering as loudly as possible. But Kale Jhin bot lane.
Standard, meta.
It's going to be for solo queue. I'm sure somebody is going to go out there and try this. You can see Wraith already takes quite a bit of damage.
Wraith's accounts right now largely are hidden. On his challenger account, he doesn't have as much KO played as you might expect, although has recent matches in the KO. Again, he's always been this guy to try and play it. It was one of his unique pocket picks far back as 2013 when he was on Zenix, then over onto SKTelecom. It's the kind of storyline you forget when Wraith's been out of the team for so long, but there is that storyline against SKT. Has been on the Samsung organization ever since the sister teams combined and the starting rosters left. He was subbed in then. Was starter until CoreJJ took his spot right at the end of summer season. In the early weeks of summer season, we were calling Wraith and Ruler the best laning duo in the league before CoreJJ clearly had the intangibles take away the spot.
They look quite good. And I mean, Zyra grew very much in popularity in the bottom lane, and that just seemed to really fit for CoreJJ.
Crowns Victor versus Faker's Corki. Isn't quite as legendary a matchup if it was something like the LeBlanc, but certainly been...
Or the Zed.
Or the Zed, as you say, but certainly been a very reliable pick so far for Faker this season.
Still something that's been eluding us quite a bit. We've seen the Zed come through in one of MVP's games. Ian playing that, but otherwise, haven't seen it really grow back up in popularity. Talon's still something that Pawn flashes at us every now and then, but is yet to be locked in.
We get the Kale. So Kale's laning phase, not the strongest, obviously has just a little bit of sustain from the Divine Blessing, the W. I believe it's called. Been a while since I've had to cast too many Kale games. I got it right, yes!
Would be the Divine Blessing, you got it.
The max is probably going to be the Q, just for the bit of slow, but could just be the W. Remember, it's mostly the speed up that it's known for, because the healing is very slight. Intervention, the major part of the kit. It's not the E-max you'd expect from the support role, given that Karma and Ezreal will just win that auto attack trade at every point, so the solo lane maxes aren't as relevant. But you have to be so on point with the intervention. It's a pretty unique ability, pretty long cast range. You want to use it proactively. It's not usually to keep people alive when they're low, but more to allow someone to dive with relative impunity.
Works really well for a Rengar, you have to say.
Yep. Divine Blessing and also the intervention.
On top of Thrill of the Hunt, that's going to be one fast kitty, and he can't take any damage. So that'll be quite nice for Ambition. But
the other scenario where it's strong, Kha'Zix's looking for an isolated target. Doesn't matter your positioning against a Kha'Zix, because although you're not CC immune during the intervention, you're kind of positioning immune. You might see multiple fights here.
The crown goes low, but Ambition jumps in onto Peanut, even with the isolation damage and the level disadvantage that Ambition had for a second there. Peanut still is dissuaded and will back away, so Scuttlecrab goes over towards the Rengar. But yeah, a couple big bursty champions here on the side of SKT, what with Corki and the Kha'Zix. So I mean, if you can get that intervention in up front, mitigate all that burst damage, suddenly Corki's gonna be like, well, I have nothing else. I have to wait for my cooldowns now.
You just have more as a Corki compared to Victor pre-Hex Core. Another reason you want to trade extensively is try to force the Victor back before he hits 1250 gold, and you get that reliable wave clear. It's kind of the opposite of Ryze, where if you trade with Ryze early and that you both back, he gets a tier because he only needs 300 gold to start stacking. But against a Victor, having to go something like CDR boots or a second Doran's ring is a much bigger cost for the Victor. That's why he wants to extend the laning phase. Oh, wards for Huni.
Yeah,
just roams down, but doesn't actually put one down because he doesn't have one available.
Kind of feigning that, so might just give Samsung the wrong idea. Make them think that they'll be spotted out around that Gromp.
It's like an evolution of the fake leash idea where players will actually go and take damage from the top red side and then enter lane, so it looks like that their jungler started top red side. Because it's nothing to do with the time, it was minion wave was pushed in. No need to just watch Maokai slowly last hit under turret. Why not go and effectively create doubt in the mind of Ambition?
Cube coming back in, of course, just going to be stacking up for AP as quickly as possible, so has that null magic manual on top of the double Doran's rings.
To be clear, it's not a fantastic laning matchup for the Kayle. She is melee most of the time. Her sustain is minimal. Seems to be picked for the team comp much more than the laning phase.
I mean, we've seen just, how out of the meta most melee supports are at the moment. Oh, Huni, actually, to hold that thought as he goes low. Cuvée, though.
Q-Flash would not have killed him.
Yeah, low on mana. Scrap shield there for Huni. So he does make it out, doesn't even have to pop the flash.
Yeah, Q-Flash wouldn't have killed him. We saw Cuvée try that on a turret dive in a different game and not pick up the kill. We'll just equalize the wave. Nothing for Maokai to do there. Very effective in this case because now you can't even die on minion waves bot lane.
Oh, yeah, Bang jumping forward on a Wraith. Going to come up with a kill. Stitch was exhausted. An exchange of exhaust between these supports, but now Peanut wrapping around the back. Flash away from Wraith, but Stitch, he's just out to dry. He goes down, and now it looks like, yep, Wraith, he'll get taken out as Faker picks up a kill. Nicely done by SKT. They're going to get the ball rolling very swiftly. 2 kills over to them, almost 1,000 gold in the lead already. Won't be able to stick around for the turret as Crown roams down, but he was not going to be able to find any answering kills either.
Ambition and Huni tussling on the other side because this was time for Ambition to invade to try and make something out of the 4-man commit from SKT in bot lane. Didn't seem like the synergy was there between Stitch and Wraith. They clearly weren't calling what to do if a turret dive was to happen. And Wraith flashing away isolated Stitch to die, so certainly wasn't ideal. I don't think this is a trade that Ambition wins, so he should probably run away.
And he's trying to hightail it back into the arms of Cuvée. Still loses about half of his HP, though, from that. And they can't catch the Rumble. Thrill the Hunt comes out, though. Peanut in the vicinity. But likely won't be able to come up with a kill on him either. Faker takes a little bit of damage. Just Ground did throw out that one. Yeah, Bolo shot connects. Flash in with a shield from Wolf, who roams down. One more auto is enough to do it as Ground takes him out with a turret shot combined with the Q from Wolf. Takes down Victor, so both of these mid laners just going to be falling.
No level 6 yet onto Wraith, so didn't have any realistic way to keep alive the Victor. SKT continue to trade up. Still pretty happy with where they're at. Not a massive gold lead, but again, the biggest concern is more so Wraith and Stitch. Some of their struggles in bot lane. Mission isolated, but a bit of a long chase. Oh, they really want Wraith.
Yeah, flashing over the wall. No intervention available for Wraith. He goes down. Wolf finds a second kill here in this game. Bang yet to pick one up. Has those 2 assists. If only he'd gotten them as killing blows. Peanut now jumping in onto Ambition. Dunks him down about half HP. Gets a bit of a health back from that W, but overall, SKT starting to just dominate the jungle of Samsung.
While we were excited about the draft, new players, fun picks, the simple fact is that...
No, they're just getting grabbed on right now.
And that's not helped by the draft, Achilles. At the end of the day, you will be able to out-rotate a Victor more often than not when the package is up, especially for a Corki. Rumble famously pushes in a Maokai, and even though it's an Ezreal lane, the Karma does the heavy lifting for wave clear, and after those early 2 kills, the pressure is always going to be pretty much completely in the control of SKT. So when you have a level 6-centric jungler like Rengar, Ambition trying to play himself back into form, he's kind of being set up to fail with how the draft has gone out. And you appreciate the gimmicks from Wraith, but don't know if Stitch does necessarily.
I mean, we've seen some really odd picks from Trace. We know that he's now the coach, but I really want to know how Wraith sold this one to him.
It works in solo queue, he said. Think of what happens if Rengar's 4-0 and we put intervention on him.
Trace is the young. He definitely doesn't have to...
He's the LCK young in many ways. I mean, he's younger than Coma, but...
He doesn't have to respect the opinion of Wraith too much. Well, again, I guess if he didn't, he probably wouldn't have put him
maybe it's in his contract. He's like, look, I get at least 1 Leona game and 1 KO game, or I'm not re-signing, damn it. I don't want to be a sub unless I can play my chance.
That's the moment where if I was the owner of Samsung, I would have just released the contract. Like, congratulations, I'm terminating you now.
The only player that left was Helper earlier in 2016. Was surprised to see Stitch still on the roster, given that Ruler asserted himself so well. Was called JJ and Stitch swapping sides in spring season, and Ruler came in and was a superstar as a rookie in summer. But not playing in this game. You never know if it's throwing in the towel or running to try something, what the thought process is there, but not as relevant when early game's going this roughly.
Ambition doesn't have a flash to close the distance, so can't get in on top of Faker. Still a lot of damage coming out from that Chaos Storm. Ambition does find Peanut. He'll leap away, but he's got the brush, lands the bowler shot, but the isolation damage comes through. Huni, he's able to throw down the equalizer. He'll pick up an assist as Faker finds the kill. Takes a lot of damage. Flash forward from Cube, roots him with the twisted advance, pops him with the Maelstrom.
Not able to pass the kill over, but it is a 2-for-1. However, they lose their turret in a completely unrelated fashion in the bot lane. Reality of going for this KO pick with the Jhin.
Yep, so still advantage over to SKT, but a bit aggressive there by Faker, not really respecting the damage that Crown can put out with that Siphon power.
Crown looking to make it 50% this season, 1 and 2 coming into this game as Victor. Fans from Worlds will probably wonder how Crown has got as much Victor as he has, both in this game and previously, but it's never really been a contested pick against Samsung. He's often just given the Victor and other teams just deal with it. Is not frequently a ban against Samsung at all.
Taking a look at it.
And this is where Ambition starts to get frustrated because the problems of solo lanes start to spill over into his jungle.
I'm going to say taking a look at it, if Samsung actually does lose this 2-0, or 0-2 rather, as it is moving in that direction at the moment, they'll be tied with BBQ for 4th place, or 5th place rather.
Played Jhin on Sunday. Certainly come in much higher in the table than Jhin, but that could be a surprisingly competitive series, even if Samsung will most likely pick up a match win.
I think that's the series where you try out Stitch, Wraith, and Ambition. Maybe not so much SKT. Wolf does have the flash. Ambition not going to follow through, getting the kill onto the Karma.
I think you get the form onto the players who are down on form, Achilles. I think you start your best roster and you try and play them into form with what should be a straightforward victory.
You definitely do. I'm just saying if there is a time to start them, that would make a bit more sense than you do.
I'm not convinced there's ever a time to start all 3, Achilles.
That's a good point. There's so many things that we, and I especially, did not see coming in this series.
The bigger issue is that, losing 2-0 to SKT won't necessarily come as a surprise. It's just, how do you necessarily VOD review this series?
You can't really judge it well.
You VOD review game 1 and then you swap out 3 people. Maybe you can do it as a big group, but if someone says, hey, I had a bad game, I would have picked it up. Next time I'll pick it up. You don't even have a game 2 to compare it to, so it's a bit awkward in that fashion. That's why you don't normally see more than one person subbed in and out.
You're just going to be able to compare and contrast Crown and Juve from Game 1 and 2.
But even then...
And right now, they're doing okay.
And also, I think that's a bit of false logic. You're like, okay, they're still solo laners, they're still playing, but with a new jungle and with your bot lane,
changes the play style.
One of them might be a pressure bot lane, the other one might be a more defensive bot lane. Don't really have enough data to talk about where Stitch and Wraith are at. There's a lot of things that change when especially your jungler changes. So, again, not sure how much information will be left over. Maybe it was just an audition and they're trying to see which of the players steps up the most, but yeah, interesting stuff, if not necessarily going to be ultimately effective, I speculate, by Samsung Galaxy.
Well, they need to find a new casting director if this is an audition. It's not going well. And not sure what Samsung... Oh, well, kill on the Faker would definitely help things out. Chaos Storm comes through Crown. Didn't even have to pop the Ghost. Ambition's hunting now from the sidelines. Flash still up here for Faker. Does he want to go for this? Yes, he does. Exhaust immediately comes down onto the Rengar. Took back a hell of a lot of damage, but here comes Crown. He says, I have a Flash too. He jumps in and does pick up the kill onto the Corki. So nicely done. But what do they lose for? This looks like it's just going to be some damage onto this mid-tier 1 turret.
Looked comical diving a Corki with Flash and Exhaust up, but at least the communication was there between Crown and Ambition. We saw earlier, plainly not there between Stitch and Wraith. But Crown knew what he needed to do, knew his damage output, may have been the one calling for Ambition to follow through. They get the kill, and just a wave clear ult here from Stitch. They don't want to lose mid lane turret for just a single pick onto Faker.
Oh. Didn't happen. No one saw anything.
Speaking of nothing happening, no kills yet for Bang this game, as he chases down the likely milestone we'll see before this game is over.
Yep. Just 2 more kills to hit that 1K mark.
1,000 LCK kills will be confirmed for Bang.
Samsung have slowed things down. Wraith hasn't been getting chunked out as much as we were seeing before. It's just sitting in the mid lane alongside Stitch, just trying to keep him safe and keep the waves pushing away from their turret. So they haven't exacerbated the situation. Getting that kill on a Faker certainly helps them out. Keep pushing Crown further and further ahead on this Victor.
They have some single target pick. It's not a shield comp from SKT this time, so won't be as obvious an outscaling of strategy in this game too, from a Samsung perspective.
Honestly, it'd be really hilarious if Samsung won this game.
Not impossible. Unlikely.
Yeah.
But not impossible.
I was definitely being harsh, but I won't write them off quite yet until the Nexus explodes. As long as they can keep being proactive,
Teleport
just like
very
this.
deep from Juve.
Yeah, TP coming in. He has Flash to maybe go over the wall. He's going to be spotted out immediately. Bang jumps over the wall.
I don't know about the synergy there.
So he will he'll be safe, but that's just going to be a dragon picked up. It's an Ocean Drake for Samsung.
The Wraith wasted the intervention. Thought there was going to be a committal of a fight, but they're engaging onto an Ezreal
They're
next
going
to
to push
wall.
back in. Huni, he's TPing in from below. He's going to cut them
Equalizes
off.
up.
Does have it available. Ambition waiting in the brush. Jumped in. Exhaust comes down. Huni
Nice
gets locked up by
equalizer.
the Bola. Good equalizer stopping the rest of the team coming in, but Ambition is able to pick up the kill.
Stitch is all alone.
He's not jumping away out of the curtain call. Will keep himself safe. Bang as well. Uses that arcane shift to get himself out to safety. So no members of SKT other than Huni will go down. TP's invested by both sides, and it looks like Samsung will be able to go right back over to this Ocean Drake.
It looked like the setup was going to be good for Huni, but because he was so far away from his team and there's no other front line and there's no tank from the jungle, SKT were very slow to respond, and it just ended up with Huni giving up his life. And when Stitch opened up, I was like, this could be the fight for Samsung, but because of the angle of the curtain call where he wanted to stay safe and away from the oncoming SKT members, but also channel that long-range ult, he didn't have the angle to get more than one relevant shot over towards the group, so
would have been great
away.
if he was aiming at Huni.
But single kill is picked up, so still advantage goes over to Samsung.
It's an interesting game overall so far.
Team comp's better for Samsung, especially as it compares to SKT. Not so much in the 2v2 lane, but they kind of just took their losses, took their lumps, and are trying to make the most around the map. I still remain to be convinced that the KO will be relevant, given that it caused them to heavily lose the lane phase. But at level 16, and if you could just throw in a Nationals Tooth, remember there is more support income for KO than there used to be once you played in the support role back in Season 4, Season 3. You throw in some of Kael's core, she can do relevant damage shredding. You know, if there was a super tank, having that percentage shred from the passive would be big, but will be very squishy members from SKT, so the shred not as relevant. It's basically, do you make the most out of the intervention or not is kind of the big story for the Kael pick.
Yeah, just, I mean, operates, I guess, a bit like a Misfortune, where you get the Black Cleaver and you get that armor shred coming through, except this time you get 15% on armor and MR.
It also requires 5 auto attacks from 500 range, which is harder to do than just channeling the bullet time. Mission pops the ult again. Don't know if they have the right angle for engage because the mid lane outer turret's still up. Super Galaxy Rumble just shouts from the corner of the screen, as often he does.
I think that's somebody that actually hasn't gotten a skin in a while as Rumble.
Had Super Galaxy Rumble many, many years after release, when they remade his model tech. You're right. Especially with as much play as he sees.
Oh, and you're going to get jumped on, but Peanut's going to back him up. And goodbye, Ambition.
Ambition on one of his old famous CJ solo missions with no coverage, no thresh to lantern him out, not even an intervention to delay the inevitable. There's the Ambition that we remember. Not the Ambition that was at Worlds, where it had a very good tournament, all things considered.
Yeah.
Or the bad Ambition.
It's just putting people in the Ambition submission position, but it's been quite some time since we've seen that now.
That meme's sadly starting to leave relevance.
Yeah. Just dwindling away. We lost Party Cast with Bubble Time.
I hope that's not his career fizzling out. It's been a bit sad to see Ambition, very much the second performing jungler. 1-3 coming into this game, could very much be 1-4. Hard opposition to buff up that particular ratio, but it's kind of undoubted that Samsung have played a lot better when Haru's been in the starting lineup. That part is not really within dispute.
Yeah, things have just meshed a lot more for Samsung. Right now, again, they've sort of stopped the bleeding. Gold lead has stretched a bit further for SKT as they, got that pick there onto Ambition. Have just been out farming each other. Now Ambition is going to push the go button. Dives in all alone, gets on the Faker. He's going to take the Valkyrie out to safety. Takes a couple of those curtain call shots. Now Bang getting locked up. Chaos Storm taking away on him, and Stitch comes up with the kill. Samsung, can they transfer this into a tier 1 turret in mid? Looks like actually the pings are coming out. They might go for the Baron.
SKT have no one that can actually threaten Victor when he walks up, so he just plopped his damage. Everyone else from SKT has to run away, and they just pick up Bang. So Victor ends up being a frontliner for Samsung in that fight, and until they are willing to make the call to jump on him, they don't really have the CC to slow him down. So Crown's Victor, known for its reputation, but execution there was super good from Samsung. Wasn't something I could even see happening given that Victor so often is playing from much further range. SKT need to rethink because they opt into fights like that. It seems like Samsung will inch ahead.
Yeah, they scared me for a second. I thought they were going to go over and start up the Baron. I was like, I know you have an intervention. You can mitigate some damage, but not in a position to do that yet. But all I wanted was some vision inside of SKT's red jungle, which they did get. So mid outer turret does go down. Samsung just trying to claw their way back in, keeping it under a 2,000 gold lead for SKTelecom. Next dragon getting ready to come up would be another Ocean Drake.
SKT to pick up their vision control right now. It's around Drake, so that should be an objective for them. How much Crown can do here. He's still a Victor, so he will slow things.
Throw the hunt, pop by Ambition, jumps in on the Bang. He leaps away with that Arcane Shift. Fires off a couple of those Mystic shots, get some damage in. See, still just going to be opting in for the Trinity Force. Wasn't sure if we would see the Iceborne Gauntlet here. Try to kite out the Victor and the Rengar.
Feels like Ezreals don't feel like they can opt into the Iceborne Gauntlet and be relevant enough in terms of damage output. So Trinity Force, even in scenarios where you're against multiple AD threats, seems to be the way forward. At least that's what Bang's been doing. Speaking of Bang, had a spectacular start to the game. Still no kills on the board, but getting the build going. Soon to be the 2-item spike for this Ezreal. No more amount of transformation, but expected in the next 4 minutes or so.
Yeah, it should come along fairly quickly.
At latest is 27. Average feels like it's 23 to 25.
Unless you're playing Varus. That's
Fair.
like 30. Jumps up quite a bit. Faker works his way over towards the top lane. You can see he's just tickling Cuvée at this point, but he doesn't want to kill on the Maokai, just wants that turret, and he will be able to take it out. So just this mid-outer remaining for Samsung. You can see he's just a couple shots away as bang. Those forwards start styling on Stitch. Get a hell of a lot of damage down onto the Jhin, takes out the turret as well.
And SKT forcing the 5-man defense to end. Victor away from the mid lane as well. The moment they put Victor in a side lane, finally that outer mid lane turret that so frequently stays up to 35, 40 minutes when you're playing against a Victor as Practice's Crown is abandoned. So stopping the 5v5 in mid lane, opening up the map is what has allowed SKT to finally break that outer ring of turrets. And then objectives like the Baron, like this Ocean Drake, just become even safer a force for SKT.
So where does Samsung want to play around to try to get an advantage back into this game? Ocean Drake, just give them 2 so they'd have a lot of sustain.
Faker shows in top, even with package. It's going to take a while to get over to the Drake.
Yeah, it looks like this will just be the Dragon going over. Actually, TP's going to be coming through from Cuvée, trying to cut them off.
Taken away by Peanut.
Yeah, he's not really in a good spot. Yep, Peanut is able to come up with a kill. Have to take another look at that one.
Max range smite from what I could see.
Well, nicely done. Gets the smite, flashes out. Couple to delete, takes himself to safety. Faker on the other side of the map still. Uses the package to go back in, take away the blue buff.
Can't afford for those little interactions when you steal away a blue as well. You had Faker not even at the fight. You know, when you only commit in a half-hearted fashion and end up with all the objectives, that's struggle street for Samsung Galaxy.
Yeah, and they committed the TP to that. Cuvée just couldn't collapse in on the SKTelecom, so major loss for them. All over an Ocean Drake.
Cloud is the next spawn, so Infernals have abandoned us for this game. Got baited by the first game.
We got their blessing for just 1 game, that's it.
I mean, it was a...
The blessing goes on cooldown until the Telecom War, so 2 weeks.
I accept that. I accept those terms.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with nothing but Cloud and Ocean Drakes and, you know, occasional Mountain for the next 2 weeks.
Well, Faker's alone.
Yeah, he's in a bad spot. TP's going to come through from Huni.
Turnaround could come, though.
Twisted Advance goes forward as Faker gets locked down to half HP. The Death Ray deals quite a bit of damage to him. Huni going to flash away, but still gets locked up by the Bola. Big transfer power comes through. For Siphon power from Crown helps come up with a kill as Stitch just sniping from the back line gets the killing blow. Another one going over towards the Jhin. Faker lives, but they trade Huni's life for it.
Yeah, Equalizer not available, so Huni couldn't really do much in that fight. SKT will just clear the Scuttle Crab to stop a Baron Force. Baron Force is a very realistic thing for Samsung. Don't have the best Baron damage, but do have a Maokai tank it up. Ambition can also do a backup tanking job. These fights are working out, even though the Kayle hasn't necessarily been the centerpiece to justify.
I feel like Wraith hasn't really done much of anything. It's just the rest of Samsung able to work it out.
Still is. Jhin Rengar Maokai has a very strong team fighting trio.
Lots of lockdown.
Setups need to be very precise because you note the knockdown on the side of Samsung and you note the lack of lockdown on the side of SKT. They have no hard CC. They have a tether from the Karma as the hardest form of CC. I guess you could include the
slows, that's it.
The knock black from the special delivery, but we're talking about very situational stuff for SKT. And a lot of teams this week especially have struggled to make these siege comps or low CC comps work. They don't force things very well. They require good map movements, vision to have places where you can just basically have great rotational play.
No crowd. Doesn't even have to pop the ghost, actually.
No semi-globals to catch people either. Really the only thing SKT's comp does well is set up under enemy turrets and kite back. So, we'll see if the kiting back becomes relevant.
Their semi-global and their CC both come from the package. That's about it.
Oh, and the package of semi-global was very, very generous as well. It's like calling Arcane Shift a semi-global. When you go over a thick wall, it does feel like a semi-global, though.
The package has got a pretty significant distance to it. It's not, TF Ultimate. It's not a Weaver's Wall.
Is Equalizer a semi-global then? That's got a big cast range and a large AoE. I'm splitting hairs, Achilles. It's not a lot of gameplay to talk about.
I'm thinking mostly from mobility perspective.
I know. Breaking your balls, mate. Breaking your balls.
They're already broken. Samsung baited me. Shot barrage not going to connect. Turret will go down. And again, Samsung, they keep this gold lead within, 2,000, 2,500 gold. I don't think it's really broken 3K for SKTelecom.
The SKT really need multiple control wards to move their vision line and set up. And for the last 10 minutes or so, they've been thwarted from that gameplay. It's allowed Samsung to stay within touching distance. It was a big lead when first brick went down so early, given that Samsung, with these picks, essentially evacuated the 2v2 as fast as possible. Wasn't a rotation like game one, just straight up lost their turret. Now SKT trying to find their next pressure point, largely seem confused about how to play this out.
Definitely an odd spot for them to be in. As we saw how well they handled the late game there. In game one, Huni getting jumped on. Goes low, has that zone. Sports, the final shot comes through. One more hit will do it. There we go. The jump forward from Ambition comes up with the kill. Bola will not connect onto Peanut. He's able to exit safely, but yet again, Huni going down 1-3-1 on the Rumble. Sure, has been extending above Kuve in CS, but just not tanky at all on this Rumble. Cannot be in the front line.
Lack of force is still being preyed upon by Samsung, who have multiple different members who can forcify it.
Bang trying to chip out as best as he can. Cube pushing forward, looking for a twisted advance. If you could find one onto a squishy member, would be another kill coming through for Samsung more than likely. Chaos Storm still available for Crown. Hasn't had the pop. That finger goes in. That's going to be the redemption, or the intervention rather, coming through onto the Victor, keeping it alive. And Bang, he gets jumped on. He jumps away with the Arcane Shift. Ambition is hot on his heels, however. Goes into the brush, but actually just way too aggressive by him. He goes down as Wolf picks up the kill. Faker getting jumped on, locked down, has to take the Valkyrie in over the wall.
What do we say about kiting though, Achilles? That's the one place where SKT have a lot of options, both mobility and movement speed being provided by the Karma to supplement what's in the kits. Now Peanut walks up to Crown. He's got Rylai's.
He's going to try to trade this back a little bit, but as the gravity field comes down, he has to leap out to safety, which will just give that Scuttle Crab over to Samsung. So able to take out Ambition. They lose Huni yet again.
Well, they just don't have any forward wards. They have nothing on their side. They just don't have wards, period, at this point in the game. When you have a squishy team like this, you don't have a Braum to walk up or a Maokai, put down saplings or to ward himself. And sure, Huni's pushing waves, but he has no idea, apart from when Samsung walk up to minion waves, of where Samsung is at. They're not being able to play 1-3-1 that Corki and Rumble can do pretty aptly in terms of pushing around the map. So honestly, they seem to wait for Samsung to force things, kite back and try to win a fight after someone like Ambition overextends like we saw the last fight, but it just feels like with all the tools available to Samsung, and in no way related to Stitch, Wraith, and Ambition coming in my estimation, it's much more about the champion picks, but the champion picks really have helped out Samsung Galaxy.
Yeah. They do lose out on that Cloud Drake, however. That gives 3 over to SKT. Now Crown getting jumped on. So much damage coming through from Peanut. Faker arrives right at the end to take him out. Finalize that kill, the redemption. Not going to get off in time to heal him up. And now SKT, they will fearlessly
Baron damage.
Start up this Baron, as you say. Lots of damage to come through with help of that Mountain Drake. Already down below half HP. Ambition trying to sprint his way in, but he can't even get in range in time. Now big red carpet laid out for him. He goes low. Flame Spitter just tickling him from behind. He'll go down as Peanut picks up the killing blow. 2 members of Samsung have fallen. Now SKTelecom have the Baron.
The one place where they had forward vision, they actually get the all-important pick onto Crown, who had been the initiation, the follow-up, the teamfight control for Samsung. Turn onto Baron. Blade the Rune King already complete on the Ezreal. 3 items for Bang, who still is no closer to 1,000 kills. Another fight, though.
And Juve going forward, tries to get onto Peanut, but again, Wolf offering up those Karma shields, keeping him safe. They don't have too much damage in onto this tier 2 quite yet, so it looks like SKT will go ahead and just wait for the next minion wave to push in. Meanwhile, Faker splitting in top will be able to knock this down all on its lonesome.
Oh, this team comp doesn't do much when you don't have the Baron, but when you have the Baron, Achilles, and you get the picks you need with Baron buff, so oppressive for Samsung to deal with. Only Crown is reliable wave clear, and the Baron up minions do not die to one death ray. finding a pick around Baron was the gold standard for SKT to be able to force things that their team comp didn't innately allow them to do. And now it's a very different game than it was 3 minutes ago.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how much gold is just exploded forth for SKTelecom. 7,000 up now, where it was just 2,500 a couple minutes ago. Lots of damage now going to be coming out from SKT. Last Whisper for Bang, going to be looking at that Lord Dominic's regard. And he can really start whittling away at Cuvée in these extended fights.
Any frustration for SKT is a personal one for Bang, because he hasn't contributed to that kill score. 1,000 kills, obviously. I'm going to get a big bonus from SKT for that. But it is a fun milestone to hit.
It seems so unlikely that he wouldn't get it in this series, so it'd be actually quite hilarious to see if it eludes him for a little bit longer.
If it isn't today.
Next match is actually versus KT Rolster.
A Telecom war.
What a time to get your 1,000 kills.
Well, that's one to circle on the calendar.
Oh, it has been since the rosters were announced, Papa Smithy. We've been ready for it.
SKT want to go into that match. Potential of going 8-1 in the first round robin. 6-1 coming into this game.
This would temporarily put them into a lead. They definitely want to close this out with a 2-0 because KT plays against Kongdu Monster tomorrow. And unless they decide to really not care, like we sort of saw from them versus MVP, where they just were playing out of sorts, then very well could just have another tie scenario between SKT and KT.
KT just looking down the turret, so only really the minions that got the auto attacks in, apart from Faker getting a single one. Rumble playing through the mid lane. Minions will start to group in the top lane, but for now, nowhere near the inhibitor turret.
Just pressure from mid and bot as best as they can apply this here. Bang takes a lot of damage, gets rooted down. They don't want to commit the curtain call.
Let's play the Rune King, so could enter the jungle as she's no camps up, so he's going to stay half health for now.
Yeah, likely just going to try to poke out with these Mystic shots. Get some damage in. Chaos Storm comes down. Bang's going to start taking a little bit of damage from that one. Huni gets rooted by the Deadly Flourish. Down to half HP. Meanwhile, Peanut and Ambition duking it out just above the rest of the teams. They'll trade fairly evenly. Summoner spells not used on the side of Samsung.
Lucian Drake, Blade of the Ruin King lifesteal will allow SKT to stay for another wave. They will do so. They want to break the turret on this wave if possible.
They don't have any Baron-powered minions. Turret's down below half. Big shield coming out. Cuvée goes forward immediately. Heals back. The tether won't connect. Now Stitch gets chunked out, as does Crown. 3 members of Samsung down to about half HP.
And at that HP, Stitch can't actually channel the ultimate even at max range, because guess what? The ultimate will come out from Ezreal whenever available to snipe him down, so backs away. Crucially, do not lose an inhibitor turret during the Baron buff duration or during that extended siege from SKT. But a nice shopping journey from SKT, 9,000 gold ahead, and as you can see specifically on Corki Ezreal, ready to go for the siege.
Yep, Faker just going to keep pushing his top wave in. Just have that shove up towards the inhib turret for now.
Rapid fire cannon on this back, you'd have to think, from Faker.
Yeah, and he's really turned this around for himself, picking up these kills. Because for a while there, Crown had a decent lead, exiting the laning phase.
And when this game was being played in mid lane, Samsung, I think, as a team comp, had a big lead. In many different ways. If they could have avoided that pick onto Crown, they looked like they were going to be in the ascendancy, but it's gone much worse since then. It's decent terrain for an equalizer.
Yeah, Void Spike's come out, slowing up several members of Samsung. Cuvée gonna flash away, has the Maelstrom up, trying to mitigate as much as he can, but Huni is pushing right into him with that Flame Spitter. Doesn't want to overheat, throws out that Electro Harpoon, won't be able to come up with a hit. So no kill coming through.
He only actually backed away when he could have killed the Maokai. He'll get a recall. We'll be able to get a shopping trip in.
Got a TP as well.
But Victor is out of the fight, so this should be Elder Drake forced for SKT.
Yep, you can see how much damage this thing has already taken down to about 3k. TP coming through from Cuvée. There's no equalizer available to try to zone them off. But Peanut, he still picks it up despite Ambition's best efforts. Gets the intervention, but it's not enough. He goes down as Faker. Nets himself another kill. Deadly Flourish, not going to lock anybody up on the side of SKTelecom. They're still hot on the heels of Samsung Galaxy. Cuvée doing his damnedest to stay alive. Goes in onto Wolf, helps come up with a kill as Crown picks that up, but the rest of Samsung, they're still limping their way back to the base. Another kill as Peanut takes out the tree. 3 dead on the side of Samsung. SKT can finally break the base.
Yeah, they finally can. They got the fight because Samsung felt they had to fight around the Elder Drake. SKT, their only force is picking up objectives and forcing Samsung to fight around them. There will be no contest around this first inhibitor. Will be taken for SKT. With Victor being alive, won't be the game ending here. But touching distance at 12K, not so much for Samsung Galaxy. And next team fight win should be the series for SKTelecom.
Yep, and it very likely will be around that Baron. Now spawning in 30 seconds. Cuvée just going to spawn 8 before it comes up or so.
And this is no good move here for Samsung. Victor's not there, so you want to be able to just give it up. But Elder Dragon is not an objective you can give up for free. And Ambition's old man smite mechanics, unfortunately, are just not strong enough. If Wraith had ulted him before he flashed, because it was clear that he wanted to flash in, that would have been a much better play. By the time you ult a 300 HP Rengar, he is going to die at the end of intervention, whatever happens, so he was left to dead. You need to be a bit more proactive with the interventions, and it comes back to why Kayle. Clearly a champion that Wraith has always preferred, but lost the laning phase in about as emphatic a way possible. Didn't show great synergy with his AD carry and not with his teammates on the intervention timings, so while the other 4 picks have worked pretty well, I guess Samsung has been in this game at portions than you might not expect. We're not really seeing a reason for this particular draft, and SKT have made the best of a draft that was very hard for them to close out the game.
Yeah, I mean, for a while it seemed like Samsung might have been able to swing their way back into a victory here because there was no tanky frontline for SKT. But now SKT just have so much damage that it doesn't really even matter. You can see that massive wave, double cannon pushing down into the bottom lane, threatening that inhib turret. There's no way for Samsung to answer this Baron. Super Creeps pushing down into mid. SKTelecom now grouping in top. They could just go ahead, sweep right through the base, take it out, kill everybody, get the Nexus, and walk away with another 2-0.
Yeah, comps like this turn in an instant. When you have equal vision, when you can't actually siege because you don't have the ability to put down vision with no tank, comps like SKTs look like garbage, but when you get the Baron, when you force Samsung to fight, rather than allowing them to kite back, comps are oppressive to say the least from SKT. Even though there's decent initiation, Valkyrie will come in, as you can see.
Mission, yep, jumps in for just a split second, gets taken down to half HP. Curtain Call opened up as Cuvée goes into the front line, still quite tanky on the Maokai, but the tether comes through, they root him down, and he's going to get popped. Actually, intervention comes in right at the last second to try to keep him alive, gets the heal from the Sap Magic, but it won't do enough to take out anybody on the side of SKT. He falls, Faker finds another kill, bang, still not coming up with any, desperately gonna have to try to find some
fountain diving time, Achilles?
Before that Nexus crumbles. He jumps forward, he's low on mana. Hailstorm comes through, that's gonna be Crown going down. Another kill for Faker. Looks like it's not gonna happen today, bang. Finally gets one on the board, just needs Stitch. If only he would give it over to him. Looks like Stitch says, not today, buddy. You gotta wait, you gotta get it from KT Rolster.
Well, wait and see, they're thinking about the fountain dive.
Oh boy, how do they approach this one? If it goes over to anybody that isn't Bang, it's an absolute travesty.
They're going for it!
Ready. He jumps forward, but Bang, he's taking the fountain. He's gonna go down. A double kill for Stitch. Can he find the triple? No, he cannot. The Nexus dies before he's able to do so. Bang, unfortunately, 1,000 kills not gonna happen today, but SKT still pick up a 2-0.
Sometimes players say they don't know about a statistic. They knew about it here, Bang. Faker, the rest of SKT wanted to set him up for that 1,000. Won't be 1,000 on this day. Even Coma's smiling. That one wasn't necessarily in the Coma playbook. That just happened organically. The Telecom War, 1,000 kills for Bang. Everything's going to come together in just a couple of weeks, and SKT will enter that Telecom War with a single match loss, 3 game losses, 2 over to Afrika in that surprise 2-0, and 1 to Longzhou earlier this week. And some pretty damn good momentum. We had our questions after they lost to Afrika. Since then, they beat Longzhou, they beat Samsung, 2 teams we expect to be fighting for top 5. Now we have to see how they do against KT Rolster.
And you have to think, with KT coming in, their last game before they face SKT is Kongdu Monster. They're likely going to have the same exact game score.
We've never had a scenario like this in the LCK when the first round robin ends and 2 teams are even because they have no head-to-head. They're likely to have the same game score unless Kongdu can pull off a victory. Even a single game would ruin that particular statistics, but you'd have to think, all things being considered, we will likely have the head-to-head decide who goes into the first round robin, top between the two telecom teams.
It's definitely going to be one hell of a matchup. For now, Samsung, lots of work to be done by this squad who will be falling out of third place. I believe Longzhu will advance over top of them, and you can see they tried changing things up. I think they changed up a little bit too much by swapping out 3 members and going for something like the Kale.
And you know, when we think about balance changes, when you change too many things and you're like, well, now I'm not really sure what was too strong and what was too weak. When you change 3 players and the game was better.
What was the weak point?
What exactly did you work out here? You're like, okay, I mean, Ambition had some good engages in zoning, but went too much, had a bit of those Ambition moments. Stitch played pretty well on Jin, but would he be better than Ruler, who was actually 4-0 on Jin before this game? Wraith played Kale, so unfortunately that's just a bit of a nothing point there. So
you gained nothing, no knowledge.
You had a more competitive game, but you didn't really learn anything, and I can't tell you now which of these players needs to go into the Game 1 starting lineup to make Samsung better. So that's kind of my frustration is, when you change too many valves, there's not really any take-home message that's at least clear. So I hope scrims are working out. I hope they really are able to tune that in the back, because I don't feel like on stage we learn too much more about Samsung Galaxy.
Yep. It's an odd gamble for them to take. They took it nonetheless, and they come up short. They go home empty-handed, so Ambition, the veteran on this squad.
300th game, remember, in the LCK.
Yep.
Will be a loss for him. He's felt that a bit too much this season. 1-4, 20% win rate for one of their strong points when it came to Worlds, and specifically his marshalling of young players as they took that series over KT Rolster to even attend Worlds. Yeah, it's a bit of a tough time for Samsung Galaxy, who may go into the first round robin third, but a distant third.
Yeah. Gonna have some climbing yet to do to get back to that point. You can see Bang, despite coming up 1 kill short, still doing by far the most damage in the game.
He was desperate for the double MVP 1,000 kill interview, but he's been denied.
All he did was just chunk people out so they could all pick up the kills instead of him.
That fountain dive was so un-SKT-like, you have to say. So much about the control, but wanted to get a milestone for their longtime AD carry, who looked like there was certainly some thoughts of leaving SKTelecom organization at the end of 2016, but stuck around. The bot lane and Faker are still there from the World Champions. It's going to be Wolf with the MVP.
Wow. All right.
Good kill participation, 88%.
Definitely, you know, a bit of an odd one. We've seen more supports picking up MVP nominations here this split, whereas you look back to summer and spring, it was pretty rare to see. But Wolf, he's able to net one for himself, his 3rd win. And, I mean, a lot of this comes down to just absolutely bullying Wraith in the early game.
I mean, that's what happens when you pick Kale's support against Karma. It wasn't against a melee support that he could maybe bully with his E. The lack of synergy here between Wraith and Stitch. You're flashing away to leave your AD carry isolated. That's not so good. And then he just dies anyway, as Faker made the roam down.
I would have just saved the flash.
If you want to talk about whose performance or whose contribution was more significant than their opposite number, then I can understand Wolf. It's very hard to win an MVP on Karma, specifically support Karma, because it's a lot about shields and speed-ups rather than necessarily having the most impactful, highlight-worthy kits. As you can see, very much just team performance from Wolf, who has been, to me, the best performing member on SKTelecom, at least consistency-wise, throughout the course of the spring season 2017 so far. So 2-0. The expected result, not necessarily in the manner, and certainly not the members on the Rift that we expected from Samsung Galaxy, leaves us once again poised for that telecom war.
Yep. Well, we're going to go ahead, throw over to the interview where we will hear from SKT's bot lane. So, Joel, take it away with the translation.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Joel with your interview translation. We are here with SKTelecom facing off Samsung Galaxy, which is a repeat match again. It's where we've seen in the World Finals. But we're here with a different result this time, whereas SKT wins 2-0 against Samsung Galaxy. And we're here with today's MVPs, Bang and Wolf. Bang, how do you feel about the win? I'm glad that we got the win, and we have a lot of schedules coming up. And I feel like it gave us a good amount of confidence going into the next games. Wolf, it's the first time you're doing the MVP interview today. How do you feel? You know, you gave me that sign before we started the game today. You told me that I was going to do it. You didn't tell me directly. You showed a very strong performance with the Karma in the second match. How does it match up with the Israel going up against that bot duo? And you know, League is a simple game. You just dodge the skill shot, you just make your skill shots, and that's kind of how you win the game. Same question goes over to you, Bang. When you know you're picking the Israel, it's also very similar with what Wolf has been saying about League, and does it apply to you as well? Israel is just a pick that I favor in most matchups, and especially against the Jin, I think it's a very favorable matchup. And I think it's something that other players can follow this trend if they want to. If they want to face up against Jin, they can pick the Israel into it. With Jin, if the line's pushing against him, it's really hard for him to, you know, get the CS on. So something like the Israel really forces him, bullies him to, you know, to limit him on the CS department. And that's kind of the reason you would win with Israel against Jin. You know, whenever the first wave of minions come in, you just have to be very aggressive and just, you know, get the waves and, you know, do a little poking, and that should be enough to beat the Jin in any case, in any situation. And that cycle just repeats over and over, and the Jin can't do anything about that matchup. And that's the end of the game. Thank you for the detailed explanation, Bang. And you showed a very strong performance with the Varus, a different champion for you. And it's still considered one of the top picks in the ADC position. How do you think about the champion? In the case of Varus, it's all based on your skill cap, and if you got enough skills to play the Varus, you can do enough for your team. And it's a situation where you can't lose the matchup, like duo matchup against the other bot duo. So, but of course, if you make a mistake with Varus, it's a very snowball champion. So you know, it's a very OP champion right now. So you should go out and play it. In the first game, you guys were really struggling against Haru, who were making very aggressive plays that were very effective in the beginning of the plays. And what was the situation regarding that? I think if we operated the game a little bit better, it would have been nicer, but you know, managing that operation isn't my part to do, so you know, I'm gonna blame my other teammates for that. I'm just watching in the back, spectating. And that's just my job, so did my job well again today. We have a game highlight from the game. This is from game 1. While you guys missed some very crucial skill shot, this was very decisive in the win. Yeah, all the skill shots did go off, but the Ashe was in a bad position, as you can see. And, you know, getting hit by that Varus Q one time, got it in a very crucial HP, which allowed us to get an easy teamfight win. It was a good situation for us to do the teamfight, so that's why we fought it. In that situation, it's all about how you push the team fight, and you know how you run, and you know how you move around. That's the most important thing. But you know, I don't like to usually scream during those kind of team fights because the coach gets mad at me when I do that. So I just like to stay quiet and just work with the team. In the second game, you showed a very strong performance with Karma. And it was a situation where you guys had a very strong CC composition where the opposition had a very strong DPS compo. I wasn't very nervous throughout the game. And I feel like, you know, if we can get the champions to be faster and faster, that's kind of my goal for the game. And picking the Karma, you know, it gets my other teammates faster. And just, you know, always, as always, just avoiding skill shots and making your own. That's the objective of the game, so So getting the karma makes it easier to do that. So I don't think there was a problem with that. And a lot of the surprises were that Samsung made a 3-member change, and along with the Kale support. I had no idea that was going to come up, but but matching up against the Karma, I felt like the matchup was going to be disadvantageous against them, so we weren't very afraid of that. I feel like Kale support needs a little more research, need a little more experiment. So, but right now it wasn't the best time to bring it out. And the current meta is that Rengar is being open in a lot of the ban pick phases. What's wrong with that? I like Rengar when it's in our team. I don't like the Rengar when it's in the opponent's team, but in a situation where there are so many other picks that you have to ban out, Rengar is something that you have to be willing to give up. It was a very memorable day for many of the members for both teams. Ambition playing his 300th game, and you were about to get the 1000th kill, and in the end, you just failed to do it. I didn't care, nothing about that. Yeah. No, I thought he was crazy. He was so desperate for that 1000th kill. Yeah, it was just all about getting a kill, just another kill, not that it meant for the 1000th kill. And he was just begging for us to, get him that 1000th kill. He was begging for us. No, but I think it was a situation where we could have gotten another kill. No, but if you want to show us the replay, we can explain further about that. It doesn't matter if I get the 1000 kills or not. It's all about winning the game. And whether I get 999 or not, it doesn't matter. Yeah, don't die for me. We might lose the game because of it. But that's what he asked of me. So. But let's finish up with just one more kill. That's what he said. But in the end, we failed. But in a situation when I think to be honest, now I'm saying this now. I think Samsung should have gave that one more kill just for the heck of it. We were in a situation where they couldn't have won the game. I think they should just gave it one up. So who was the biggest perpetrator for that? I think that guy standing in the fountain is like the biggest perpetrator right now. He's standing way in the back. I think that was pretty BM of him. But I think everybody's just the same. They're all the same perpetrators. I think everybody should have helped me out to get that 1000th kill, but no one helped me out. And lastly, we have to mention that the Europe coming game is the biggest game of the season against KT. Do you want to say anything to your fans? I'm glad that we won today. And I think we have a long break before the next match. And it's an important match for us, so we want to end the season off well, so we'll just continue to do our thing. And that's the end of the interview. Back over to you guys.
Thank you, Joel.
That was a very amusing interview with the bot lane duo. We don't often get both members of the duo for an MVP interview, but
it's a bit of a rare occurrence. But
I loved Wolf just calling Bang on all. Is it no? It's just a regular kill.
Reminds me of you and I, Papa
game at all.
You calling me
out.
There was
a lot of ball breaking from Wolf there. You gotta say.
It was quite good. So yeah, it turns out Bang definitely thirsty for that 1000th kill. But he does elude him for a bit more.
Because then he could have had the 1000 kill montage in 2 weeks for the Telecom Wars. That's probably enough time for Ojin to get it done. But now it's going to have to be a later thing. So. Speaking of later, goodbye Samsung. You were dispatched by SKTelecom. Yeah, one thing that I want to actually remind people of is we look now, Samsung equal BBQ Olivers and SKT in first.
What a world we live in.
Is the Ezreal talk, because they were basically, if you look at stats, the most played AD carry in the world was Jin over the past week with EU, NA, LCK, LPL, Brazil, the CS. And he says, which I kind of called, of the meta 80 carries, the one where you can fit in Ezreal is the lower wave clear Jin, and that's why he said pushed away from the start, Jin can't match. So it's a good spot for Ezreal, so maybe more people pick that up. As we'll come back after the break with a bit of a lower stakes match as the Rox Tigers take on MVP. Rox's last match, I believe, before they jet off to Aya.
Yep. So you do have to take a quick little break. I say quick, but it's about 45 minutes, so we don't have the longest first series like we did just yesterday. Jin Air is not in the building here today. So we will take a 45-minute break. When we come back, we will have that second matchup of the day, Rox Tigers versus MVP. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back in just a little bit, so go ahead, take a quick cat nap, and we'll see you then.